Does it feel like every part of your life is divided? Every scenario, every environment, your church, your school, your work, your friends, left, right, conservative, liberal, religious, secular. It seems you always have to take a side. This is a conversation between a progressive Christian and a conservative atheist who happen to be great friends. Welcome to Living on Common Ground.
Do you think if we met today, we would still be friends?
I don't know, but we're friends now.
A mob is no less a mob because they're with you.
Man, so what? We won a few games. And y'all fools think that's something? Man, that ain't nothing, y'all. And you know what else? We ain't nothing either. Yeah, we came together in camp. Cool. But then we're right back here and the world tells us that they don't want us to be together. We fall apart like we ain't a damn bit of nothing, man.
All right, so how you doing? I'm going to start there because Krista loves when we get a little bit of that in there.
Yeah, we can talk about our board and our sound engineer. We can talk about our microphones and
what a great job our sound engineer does.
Yeah, just lots of housekeeping.
Yeah, it's good. No, okay, so before we started recording, I said this, and I wasn't sure I wanted to record because it's going to be a vulnerable moment for me. And as much as I talk about everything I talk about, there are certain things that become very difficult for me to be vulnerable to, or to be honest about, or to show. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm, sure.
Okay. So one of the things...
I have similar things.
Okay. So one of them is I struggle with... I talk about... I was about to say I talk a good game. I talk a lot about being like, how do we solve an issue without turning the person who disagrees with me into the enemy that has to be conquered, right? And I think to me that's the conversation that's going to really sort of help fix a lot of our communities today, and it's the reason that I'm doing all of the stuff that I'm doing. However, that being said, I do struggle at times with wondering, like, because part of what I'm trying to say is that if there's an issue, right? Like, let's look at environmentalism. I think everyone agrees that it's bad for rivers to burn, for there to be so much pollution that a river catches on fire, like it did in my hometown back in the 70s, Cuyahoga River.
Unless it is a sign from God.
Well, that's not where I'm heading today. Okay. So, all right. But my primary assumption for what I teach and for what I talk about and what I write about, what I create videos about, all that kind of stuff, is that a person who disagrees with you on a particular issue like environmentalism, they're not your enemy that you have to conquer, because when that happens, we lose sight of the actual issue, which is taking care of the environment. And the environment then just becomes a weapon, and the discussion about the environment becomes a weapon in order to conquer the other. And when that happens, we're unable to actually deal with the underlying issue of environmentalism. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because what happens is, I am more worried about beating my enemy than I am about actually solving the issue anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have confused the fact that if I can destroy my enemy, then that will solve the issue, when that actually doesn't do anything. And that the only way that we can actually solve issues is if we are willing to hear from multiple perspectives and come up with what we believe is the best solution for something.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, my underlying assumption is that people actually care about the issues.
Okay.
Right. And for multiple reasons. Like there's certain values, there's certain things that we care about. Like, right. Like, for example, maybe we care about our children. And so we care about like the environment, or we, whatever it is. It's something that we all, there's something else that we care about that makes this an issue that we care about. Are you still tracking?
Yep.
Okay. But here's this sort of what's the word I'm looking for? A variable that doesn't work into my worldview, or that causes trouble for my worldview. The person who actually doesn't care and their whole purpose is to X, right? Like in the movie Batman, one of the ones with Christian Bale, which I think is
the real ones.
Those are great. They're not as campy as the ones that came out when I was a kid. And,
Yeah.
Anyway, there's a scene in there where Alfred looks at Batman, at Bruce Wayne.
Some men,
and yes,
just want to see the world burn.
Yes. And what do you do? Like, what do you do with that? And so, that being said, a lot of my friends, not all of my friends, which I'm proud to say, really struggle with our current administration. Right? Okay. And I am concerned about the what I'm seeing take place right now with Venezuela. But even that's not so much, because I can look at like other things that we've done in the Middle East, and I can see that we've done a lot of similar things, right? Like this administration is not setting a precedent with what they've done in Venezuela. Let's just be honest. I think that's pretty fair to say, right? Now it's easy for us to jump all over that. But the thing that does have me concerned a little bit is I'm also watching sort of the response of other world leaders, especially ones that are our allies. But it's the current rhetoric that I'm hearing about Greenland. That I'm like, what are we like? Is this even like real, or what are we doing here? And so now that being said, I know that some of this is because a few months ago, I came back on social media, and so the algorithms are catching up, and I'm being fed things that are increasing my anxiety. So I have turned back the amount of engagement I have with social media. But anyway, I need you to talk me off the ledge here. Like at one point I was even like at night thinking to myself, my son, we just last year in October registered him for selective services. I don't want him to have to go to war with Denmark, get drafted, because you see what I'm saying? Like how far I've taken this in my own mind. And I know that that's not healthy, but that's what I can do if I'm not careful. And I took it all the way to, I will help my son move to Canada before I allow him to go to war with Denmark because we want to take Greenland. So how's that for just showing what a dumbass, or how I can get really anxious about things. And again, I know I'm rambling here, but again, I'm reading the fourth book that I've read by Ryan Holiday, who is for those of you that aren't familiar, he is what I would call a neo-stoic.
Yeah, that's a good.
Right. Because he doesn't, by the way, side note, neo-stoicism does not fully embrace stoicism. It just takes the value parts and makes it into becoming a better you. It completely ignores the whole logos thing. All right. Anyway, but the one I'm reading right now has to do with this idea of being able to have, it's the temperance part, right? And balance and stuff. So I'm reading it and I'm like, yes, yes, yes. And then I catch portions of the news that I read. I need to stick to 1440. I think that's the end of it. I just need to, it just tells me what is happening. But the whole Greenland thing's got me upset. So go ahead, fix me. Because here's the thing. I want everybody that's listening right now. I asked Lucas to fix me because I believe he can. No, and I think this is really important for our conversation about living on common ground. Is I know that you and I don't see eye to eye on things, but I so value, and it sounds like I'm just, kissing up here, but I so value your perspectives and your opinions about things because it balances me. And I need the balance.
Well, that's very kind.
So help me.
Gosh, where do we start on that? I mean, I'll start with a little bit of common ground. I mean, the reason that you mentioned signing Robbie up for selective service, because he turned 18. So he's got to sign for selective service, which I did, which you did, I'm sure, when you did as well. We'll have to sign read-up this year.
Yeah.
That was part of the reason that I was pleased that Trump got elected. Because we, and Krista and I, felt that even though we didn't vote for him, we throw our vote away every 4 years, we were far less likely to get involved in an actual war that would require drafting under Trump than under the, and I'll just say, under the cabal that whoever it was that was actually running the Biden and then would have been running the Harris administration. It clearly wasn't Biden, and it clearly wouldn't have been Harris. So, and the reason for that is because I think that we get involved in wars that get away from us, more likely in situations where there is confusion between states and between the state leaders. If there's confusion about what's happening, why are they doing that? Why would, and so, I think that you're right in a sense that the Venezuela thing is not unprecedented in terms of the United States toppling other countries. Just that we're not. John Mulaney had a bit during the comedian during the first Trump administration, where is a whole bit about Trump and about how crazy it was, and it was very funny. And he's like, I don't consider myself a political comedian, and then he has this whole thing, and then he goes, and then some people will say, like, why don't you care about that when the last guy was in power? And he's like, get away from here with the facts. I wasn't paying attention back then. You know what I mean? So, and it's very funny, but I think that it illustrates something that is true. Libya it's a hellhole now with actual slave markets that exist now. We did that. Like the Obama administration did that. Hillary Clinton did that as Secretary of State. She laughed about it afterward. She famously said, we came, we saw, he died. Like they're very excited about that. Syria, same thing. We are the reason now that Al-Qaeda, formal Al-Qaeda, we supported Al-Qaeda toppling that you can call him a dictator, fine. So we have done these things. However, I will say one of the things that is unprecedented, as far as I can see, is that there's not a whole lot of like rainbows and roses painted all around it, as if it was just something that would have happened anyway, and we just had to do that, and and then let's look over here. It's pretty naked empire behavior. We've been an empire forever, but it is pretty blatant empire behavior.
Yeah, because the attempt to make it sound like it's a war on drugs, when you look at like the bigger picture stuff, it's a ridiculous claim.
It is. The war on drugs stuff is dumb, and then it was not just war on drugs. Then it was they're violating our oil sanctions, so we've got to take care. And all of that is, look, the last administration put a $25 million bounty on the head of Maduro.
Yeah,
like it's very the U.S. has had a policy of Maduro must go forever. Nobody's crying over Maduro going, right? Nobody's upset.
Yeah,
Venezuelans are not upset. I mean, some Venezuelans will be.
Well, I have some friends that emigrated here from Venezuela because of the whole situation there.
Yeah.
Sure. Yep.
So U.S. based Venezuelans, I would wager are like 99-1 happy about this, right? In fact, the guy who does, what is his name? I think his first name's Jose, but I can't remember his last name. I follow him on Facebook. He does the Spanish calling for UT. He just started it on his own because there wasn't any play calling or the color commentary or whatever in Spanish, and he was like, "We need to have that." There's I know a bunch of people who watch it and they'd like to have anyway. So he's the official caller in Spanish, and I follow him on Facebook. Turns out he's from Venezuela, emigrated here, as a kid, 25 years ago or whatever, and he's super happy about it, right? And I think that's probably a case kind of worldwide. Having said that, I don't want us involved in these things personally.
I'm with you.
I know. I'm just saying, just to be clear to anybody who's listening, I am against nation building. I am against these foreign entanglements. I don't want this. Having said that, I don't know. I was talking last night about how Chris and I were talking about how there's a part of me that's maybe I was wrong about it's just a part of me. Maybe I was wrong about the stage of republic decline that we're in. I've been thinking of us as being in the early stages, the Tiberius Gracchus and the Gaius Gracchus, and I've actually compared Trump to Tiberius Gracchus as a upper class populist for the lower class, right? And there's I think that the analogy goes quite a ways personally. There's a lot of controversy with historians about whether or not Tiberius Gracchus and Gaius, and then the rest of them that came afterward, who were all patricians, who would sometimes give up their patrician status to take the position of tribune to the plebs because of the power they gave them. There's controversy over whether they did it because they believed in these land reforms and his redistribution of wealth stuff that they were doing, land reforms and whatever. They believed in it, or it was just a cynical ploy for power. They saw an opportunity, and that was how they got power. So anyway, that's how I've thought of it. I wonder if maybe that was about 5 decades ago now, and maybe the better analogy is we're in the Marian era where we kind of have been dropping the facade of this republic thing for a while. And I'm not saying that that's what I believe.
Right.
I'm just saying I've been feeling. So it's very long-winded to say I don't like it. I'm not in favor. The Greenland thing is different. It is different. I've heard the arguments around it, and apparently in foreign policy circles, that has been an ongoing conversation for a long time because of its military strategic importance. I know that the rhetoric right now is we will do whatever we have to do, including using the military. I know that has been said. Okay. I don't know what to make of that for a couple of reasons. One of the things that I maintain with when I think about Trump and how he operates in particular, aside from his populism in more of his business life, personal life, from everything that I've ever heard from people who have worked with him for a long time, the one thing he's really good at is negotiation. He's just a very good negotiator. And part of that is because he believes that he can be a good negotiator, and negotiators fail sometimes. But this is a pattern. I'm not saying he's playing 4D chess. I'm not one of those, I don't worship the guy, There's a lot that I don't like. Like I said again, I have to say it again. I didn't vote for him. I wouldn't vote for him. But I do think that a lot of times the initial statements that we hear are intentionally super inflammatory, right? They're intentionally made to put the people on the other side of the table on their back foot. That's the point. Get as much as you can. And so I don't usually freak out about the initial things that, that being said, like, obviously I don't want us attacking Greenland, I guess. No, I don't. And the concern about war is a concern that, that I have as well. I've got 2 boys. Okay. Can I say a little bit more?
Yeah. I'm still listening.
Okay. So so that's all kind of like directly addressing those specific issues, kind of my thoughts on those issues so far. But in terms of the kind of the greater principle, what you were talking about, like, how do you feel okay? Like, it made me think of, when you first started talking about it, I wrote this down, of Amusing Ourselves to Death. And
great book.
Yeah. And we've talked about it a bunch of times, but one of the premises that he has in there, is that mass media, and of course this is written prior to the internet, much less social media, right? He was talking about TV. But he starts talking about, even if you go back prior to TV, mass media allowed news organizations to hijack a part of our psyche that is intended to tell us what's important and what we have to pay attention to. It hijacks that by giving us information about areas that would we not be reading or hearing from those mass media outlets, we would never know about, right? It would never really affect us. But once we hear about it enough times, because we have this kind of a mechanism where we can determine what's important for us, what we should be paying attention to, by how many people have talked about it with us, right? So you can go back to the whole, like, you can't go over whatever arbitrary number. You can't go over 100 in a tribe before it starts like disintegrating or whatever, right? So you've got your 100 people in your tribe. Well, if 2 people tell you about some issue, you might think, okay, maybe that's a problem, maybe it's not, whatever. But if 50 people tell you, well, it's probably a problem, you should pay attention to that. So now we have media sources that are coming into us that can come from literally billions of people. So it can hijack that, and it's impossible for you to feel like I don't have to think about this. Do you know what I mean? And as soon as I say that, there is I can hear the immediate response, well, Lucas, of course it has to be important because it will affect him. If his kid gets drafted, then it does affect him. And that's a trump card, no pun intended. That's a trump card that can't be argued with on a rational basis, right? What I'm saying is, I think prior to that, there's a whole bunch of world issues that get handed to us every single moment, that if we didn't, you experienced it when you went off social media for like a couple of years. You didn't know that you were supposed to be upset about it. And then here 2 years later, probably it didn't have any effect on your life. And you didn't know that you were supposed to think that it was going to have an effect on your life.
Yeah.
So, and I will say also, that I think my perspective, maybe this is helpful, maybe it's not, I don't know. My perspective does come from kind of my, you want to go back to the Enneagram 5, thing where I always do kind of have a default position of I'm not really sure issues ever get solved. I'm not convinced that we can solve issues. I'm married to a one, and she is very she's staked her life on the idea that she can solve issues. There are issues. There are better ways that things can be done, and we can push them forward. We might fail, but we can push them forward, and we should, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I always come from it just skeptical of that. And so when I hear things like, when I hear about topics like environmentalism and things like that, I don't want rivers burning. No, I don't. My study of history, and again, this is because of my own personal prejudices, but my study of history does not convince me that anything can be fixed. But that, I know how that strikes people, and I think it's legitimate if it strikes people as pessimistic and cowardly. I think that would be a legitimate complaint about my position. I'm just saying that is kind of where I approach it, from where I approach it. So there you go. Those are my hopefully helpful hints.
Yeah, no, it is to keep the perspective.
I do think that there is, just again, I do think there's an aspect of this, which is, especially with the Greenland thing, you ask for your salary to be $650,000 because what you really want is $500,000 or whatever.
Right.
You ask for the house to be sold to you for $200,000 because you will buy it for $350,000, or whatever. So you say, we might use force. And by the way, check out Maduro.
Mm-hmm.
When in reality, what you really want is naval bases, and you know what I mean? Like,
sure.
I'm not saying that is the case. Again, I do not subscribe to this whole, Trump is 4D chess genius all the time, but I do think there's evidence to support the idea that he's at least a skilled negotiator, and that's what he's trying to do. But anyway,
I do think that he has a tendency to say things that are outlandish and then gauge the response.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
If everybody's okay with what he just said,
and we go for it,
then there we are.
Yep.
Right. And so then I guess the next layer to that is, and again, perspective. There's nothing. I got to figure out what can I do? What is my response within my sphere of influence and things like that. Right. Very stoic of me. But what makes me nervous is if you or I do that, right? We have friends who will come behind us and be like, "Hey, come on." We have people who will call us out on it, right? Who's the person, or who are the people that are going to call them out on this? It's like, are they afraid? Do they realize I don't know. I just think about, again, I think about world leaders and again, history. I've been thinking about okay, let's look at for a second. Oh shoot, his name just went right out of my head. I hate that. Eisenhower.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So general becomes president.
Mm-hmm.
Powerful general leading the military comes in during his reign.
Some people saw the presidency as a demotion, which makes sense because he was running the military for all of the Western, for all of Europe, Western Europe.
Yeah, when you see pictures of him sitting there with other generals from Russia, the Soviet Union, and from Britain, and he's in charge, right? And now he becomes president of the United States. And at the time, you have a growing nuclear arsenal at his disposal.
Mm-hmm.
The only time he deploys the military is to help Black children get into public schools in the South.
Mm-hmm.
That's because I think there is.
Can I give you a little bit of a?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because he threatened nuclear war over and over and over again.
Sure.
I mean, when we were the only ones with the bomb, he threatened it. From what I remember, at least 3 times said, we will go nuclear until other people got the bomb. And then he was like, oh, maybe not. Maybe we won't do that.
Because we don't want that to happen. But my point is, like, part of being a good leader is also having restraint.
Sure.
Right? It's not always just doing what you can do. It's learning to do what you should do. That being said, what determines what we should do is based on our own values. And so, I don't know. I'm starting to get into a different topic, I think.
Well, there's a couple things that I'd say. So one of the other things that I wrote down in terms of like the principle of the thing is that I do think that these large amorphous issues really are used as proxies individually as proxies for, number one, our own identity, and number two, people that we kind of don't like anyway, or that we're annoyed by. So that, I mean, really for real, what would I do to change our geopolitical policy on Greenland? Really, like literally nothing. But what I can do is I can have the right position on it. I can have the right feeling about it and let other people know that. And so then I can bolster my identity and I can bolster my status.
Feel like you've done something about it.
Yeah. And then I know, again, I can hear the voices. I hear a lot of voices when I'm
topic for
when we're
another episode.
When we're recording, I hear a lot of counter voices in my mind saying, well, you can do a lot. You can protest. You can. Okay, fine. That's okay. I still think the vast majority of the time when we're protesting, that is also what we're doing, like 90% of that for our own identity. And again, I know I'm a 5. Fine. Whatever. So I think that that's a trap that I don't want to fall into. Also, I'm sure I do. The other thing too, though, is, and again, this is where I'm kind of a 5, and maybe this is kind of black pilled. I'm kind of black pilled on this. But I really don't see Trump as the problem. I see him as the symptom of an inevitable, expected progression through a republic's life that becomes the world empire. I do still think he's a populist. I don't know that I have in my life seen any president that could make it to that position that I really believed had anybody who was helping them with restraint. I really don't. I don't see that about W.
Yeah.
About Obama. Biden, I don't think Biden was running the show. I've been on record with that. So I understand your point that if you or I were doing, but we have different motives too, Yeah,
that was kind of what I was getting to when I talked about like doing things for the right reasons. Well, our motives are different, so we might view the reasons, we might view what the right reasons are for what we do differently, right? And so you can look at what I'm doing and disagree with you not have the same motivations, and so then you disagree with my actions.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and one of your motives might be, like a really strong motive might be to keep your friend group together. You love your friends, you feel affection toward them. You don't think this consciously, I'm going to do this thing so that I keep my friends. Maybe sometimes you do. Most of the time, probably not. Most of the time, it's probably a feeling, an instinct, kind of an impulse, Where do motivations come from? I don't know. I don't think anybody knows. I think that they're precognitive and they drive us. That's why I don't believe in choice, but whatever. And so, well, here's an example. Here's a direct example. I'm in, you can call it sales. I'm in sales. Okay. I bought a long time ago, and I think I mentioned this to you before. I bought a program that was called rejection therapy, and the whole thing was these little cards that would tell you to do things. You had to do these little things, random things that were almost guaranteed to get you a no out in the world. Okay, out in the world. So, for instance, I would go to a gas station, and I'd get a bar or something, like something to eat. I'd take it to the front and ask him if I can have it for free and stare at him in his face.
And you did this?
I did it, yeah, for a while. Yeah. I still have them, actually. I've always told myself I was going to do it again. It's great because it puts it's great if you have the motivation to, I'll just say it blatantly, to sell more. Because it's about putting calluses on the part of your instincts that keep you from doing that.
Did you get the bar for free? I just got to know.
I 100% did not.
Okay.
No, absolutely not. No.
I was hoping you did.
I know. I'm sure there are stories of people who do get it. And here's the reality that I absolutely do believe. If you did that, I think it would take less than this. If you did that 100 times, there's some times when you would get it for free. That's how, and to me, that's kind of like, that's what science is. It's like taking the data and pulling it out of the anecdote, the story, and putting it over here and going, what do you see from that? Right? But nobody's going to do that because we all have a motivation to fit in with the crowd, to not be a problem. We know what the rules are. We don't even have to be told, right? So you have motivations to be a part of a group of people, to be looked at a particular way, to, we, just like all of us. If you could do things, you could have results that you can't imagine if you could get yourself to strip away some of those motivations and be singular in your motivation. Like if you said, my motivation is the thing I'm going to do is I'm going to compete in a PGA golf tournament. I truly think probably you could do it, but you would have to strip away a lot of other stuff in order to do that. You have to be singular. And I do think that someone who gets through the gauntlet that you have to go through in order to get to the presidency, I think they're, I don't know that I would say that they're a sociopath, like without empathy. But I do think that they've had to strip away so many of their motivations that we find normal, that we wouldn't really recognize them as a person.
So I want to point something out that I think is really, so I was hesitant about bringing up this topic, right? Because I wasn't sure how it would go, and but here's what I want to, because I get I don't want to, even with President Trump, I don't want to attack him as an enemy. Right? I want to be able to have conversations about what's happening without having to identify who the enemy is.
Yeah.
And I think that in our time here, I think we've actually modeled, listen to me, it sounds like I'm congratulating ourselves, but I think this is the point of the entire podcast. I think by bringing up this topic, we've been able to model what it looks like to have a conversation about issues and situations in the world, political situations. These are global political situations right now. and share real concerns, coming at it from different perspectives. And neither one of us, we didn't lift any one particular person up on a pedestal, but we also didn't turn around and demonize any one particular person. And I think it's a good model for how we can engage with people in conversations about things that we disagree with, maybe, and not turn the other person, even if it's two people, like you get together with two people who maybe do agree, and have a conversation without having to turn the other person into a vile, evil enemy, right? So, like, if let's just say that you're with a friend, and you are, I brought up environmentalist, right? And you are you're in complete agreement about the use of electric vehicles. All right. The trick is, in my mind, the healthier way is to have a conversation about in the environment and about electric vehicles and whatever else you want to talk about, without then turning around and talking about how so-and-so who disagrees with you or whatever is the problem. Because once you do that, I think you've actually lost sight of what the real maybe issue is. And so, and I don't think it ends as productive as maybe this conversation has been for me. So, anyway.
It's really hard.
It is hard.
I sympathize with anyone who maybe tries and feels like it didn't work out. I completely sympathize, because it is not reasonable, in my opinion, to expect people to have those conversations.
No.
It's more reasonable to expect the conversations to be community building, right? To be bonding, which it requires an us and a them. That's how you build a group.
Sure.
You know that you're part of this group because you're not out there,
right? And
you're in here, and so I think that's understandable, reasonable. Like I said, I get it.
Yeah,
I do it.
Yeah, for full disclosure, I can easily fall back into it.
Sure.
It's
the primary position of a human, I think.
Because you want to, and I guess what I'm trying to do is say that there's actually a third way that could be another community.
Yeah, obviously I believe in it. I believe in this. I mean, we've been doing this for 2 years now, and I want. To me, this is what you were just talking about. To me, this is a workout. Not like talking to you, Jeff, is like a workout.
It can feel like it,
but the way that we
leave these type of conversations exhausted.
Yeah, well, the way that we are trying to do it, I think, is a workout.
So I one last thing, because we're kind of running up against what we've tried to set as our time.
Yeah.
So I keep trying to come at the same topic from different ways, right? So, like, I've been talking a lot about certainty and breaking down certainty, and like I mentioned, it looks like I'm gonna have an opportunity to go to the University of Cincinnati and talk about the trap of certainty and how it leads. So then that led me into the conversation
really
about
cool.
fundamentalism.
It's really cool that it'll be like a non-religious environment.
Yeah. Well, I've intentionally done that because I'm trying to break out of sort of the own, like, my community is within the Christian community, right? But I feel like the message goes beyond that. And if we're really going to make change, we have to figure out how to communicate to the larger culture around us. That being said, recently, I also have started thinking in terms of divergent and convergent thinking.
Yeah, I saw your post on that.
Yeah? What did you think of that?
I thought that it was really interesting because your take was that you've got to have both, and that was not where I thought you were going with it, which I was pleasantly surprised.
Good.
I thought that it was, I liked it.
So, go ahead. Especially if you're going to tell me about how good I am.
Yeah, well, I think that, I have, I've brought up the concept of Chesterton's fence or Chesterton's gate on this podcast before, which is just the thought experiment of if you're walking through a field and you come across a fence, before you tear, and it blocks your way, it's an impediment. Before you tear it down, you should know exactly why it was put up and what the ramifications might be if you tear it down.
Which is divergent thinking.
Okay, I would say that's convergent thinking.
But I think it's the expansion of your mind. Right?
Okay.
So because convergent thinking is, let's tear the fence down.
Okay, I
right?
see what you're saying.
I've come up with a conclusion on what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Divergent thinking is being able to open up to all the possibilities of why and what.
Yeah. Okay.
Right?
So I guess my point in bringing that up is that it's no surprise, or it's no revelation that I tend to be, as just kind of a person with a conservative temperament,
Mhm.
I tend to be someone who goes, don't try to fix it. Don't try to fix it. Let it be, if you can, while recognizing that a lot of the things that I see as being fixed, as being fine, are things that had to be fixed.
Mhm.
Right. So I recognize that we have not come to the pinnacle of human development.
Oh God, I hope not.
We are just a roller coaster, up and
Right.
down and up and down and up and down and around, and we just change things. So I get that, but I liked the idea of like, these two have to work together.
Mhm.
These two types. I'm not trying to say like one is conservative, one's liberal. That's not what I'm saying. But just that there is wisdom in trying to synthesize both, both ways of thinking.
Well, what I've done is I'm getting ready to put out. Well, there's going to be one long video on my Substack page. It's going to be about 22, 25 minute long. And I'm going to talk, really sort of dive into this idea of convergent and divergent thinking and how wisdom is holding both. And then on YouTube, my YouTube page, I'm going to have shorter videos. So if you don't want to sit and watch a whole 22 to 25 minute video, you can check it out on the YouTube page. But basically, can I share what I'm going to start?
Yes, please.
Okay. So the video is going to just begin with, let me ask you something. Your teenage daughter wants to pursue a path you believe will end in pain. You can see it clearly. You've lived long enough to recognize the patterns. Every instinct in you wants to intervene, to protect, to use whatever authority you have to stop her from making this mistake. But you also know she needs to find her own way, that your fears aren't facts, that controlling her choices now might damage something more important than avoiding this particular pain. So what do? This is the tension we live in constantly, not just as parents, but in nearly every area of life that matters. We need to stay open to complexity, to multiple perspectives, to the possibility that we're wrong. But we also need to make decisions, take stands, act on what we believe, even when we're not certain. Most of us have been taught to pick one, either stay endlessly open and get accused of fence-sitting, moral relativism, failing to stand for anything, or commit decisively and get accused of rigidity, closed-mindedness, and fundamentalism. But what if that's a false choice? What if wisdom requires something harder than picking a side? What if it requires learning to move fluidly between two essential modes of thinking? And so then from there, I'm going to go into, on a deeper dive, the two modes of thinking. And then what I have done too is I created some tests to see if this is actually if this actually works. And I've run scenarios, right? So like the first one
like
is
thought experiments.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So one of them is what would happen if there was a family rift over politics? How does this work? And I kind of play that one out. And then another one is a workplace decision that you have to make, right? And then the third one is going back to the parenting a teenager's risky choice. And so I work through those three situations and see if what I'm suggesting actually works. And then from there we go into how to practice it, like literally. So anyway, that's what the video is going to be about. But
yeah, that teenager thing really that hits home.
It does. I wrote a parable about it that came out this week on Substack. You know the Three Witnesses? Have you ever read any of them?
I've read a little bit. Yeah.
Okay. So the one this week is totally that, but it was me learning because I have a 18-year-old, right, who's getting ready to go to college, and it looks like where he would prefer to go, it would be my last choice for him.
Yeah.
And so So it was interesting because as I was writing it, I learned from one of the characters that I freaking created, which is so weird.
That's great.
Isn't that weird though? Like I created the character.
That is weird.
I give the character the voice.
Yeah.
I'm writing what the character is saying.
Yeah.
And in the process, I learned from the character.
Yeah, that's really cool.
I was like, I guess it's a case of not taking my own advice.
It's real meta.
Yeah, it was crazy. All right. Did we find, I think, what about common ground? Where are we?
Do you feel any less anxious? You don't have to say yes. You can say no.
Yeah, no, I do. I do. I think where I've landed here is, and again, I'm actually falling back into Stoicism, because as you were talking, I was hearing all the Stoics in my head.
Yeah.
But be prepared for what comes, but don't be worried about it. And then in being prepared, you can deal with it when it happens.
Yeah.
Because I haven't solved anything by being worried about it.
That is just all misery that you're giving yourself.
Yeah.
Also, and this is something both of us have talked about forever and that I have mentioned over and over and over again that I probably need to do again for like the 8 billionth time. And that is that social media fills my cup. It fills my attention and stimulation cup. And it fills all the cracks. Just all through, in terms of chronologically throughout the day, it does, because it can be picked up every moment of every day. So it fills up all of that.
Yeah.
And so then there's so much less space for me to be able to be in a kind of a stoic place when the issues present themselves. Not only am I getting presented with issues that maybe I need to be anxious about or think about, maybe I don't need to think about, whatever. Not only that, but just all the stuff that's mundane in social media. It just fills that cup all the way to the top. It is, completely to the brim. And so there's nowhere for it to go but to be constantly anxious. And so that's to me, I need to stop again. I haven't been on Twitter, but so that's good.
Yeah. Yeah. The Ryan Holiday book I'm reading right now is about discipline.
Yeah.
And how discipline also means knowing when to rest, the discipline of sleep.
Yeah, sure.
So, all right. Thanks, Lucas.
See ya.
Thank you for listening to Living on Common Ground. Please follow wherever you listen to your podcasts and share it with your friends. You can also find a link to our social in the description. The more people we have living on common ground, the better the world will be.